So we have the square root of 8, root 2, root 8, all to the power of 4. So let's recall, when I have root AB, this is equal to root A times root B. So we can split this root to have the square root of 8 times, we have square root of root 2, and we have times the square root of root 8, and this is all to the power of 4. But let's recall that the square root of A is equal to A to the power of 1 over 2. So we have root 8 here, which is 8 to the power of 1 over 2, times we have the square root of root 2, which is 2 to the power of 1 over 2, further raised to the power of 1 over 2. And we have the square root of root 8, so we have 8 to the power of 1 over 2, further raised to the power of 1 over 2, all to the power of 1 over 2. And this is to the power of 4. So from law of indices, when I have a to the power of m further raised to the power of n, this is equal to a to the power of m times n. So we'll be multiplying the powers. We have 8 to the power of 1 over 2 times 1 over 2 times this. We have 2 to the power of 1 over 4. And we have 8 to the power of, so we have 1 over 8 all to the power of 4. So our 8 is equal to 2 to the power of 3. So this 8 here, we have 2 to the power of 3 further raised to the power of 1 over 2, times we have 2 to the power of 1 over 4, and we have 2 to the power of 3 further raised to the power of 1 over 8, and this is all to the power of 4. So multiplying these powers here, we have 2 to the power of 3 over 2 times 2 to the power of 1 over 4 times 2 to the power of 3 over 8, all to the power of 4. So we have some bases here as 2. So we have 2 to the power of, adding up the powers here, we have 3 over 2 plus 1 over 4 plus 3 over 8, all to the power of 4. We have 2 to the power of, our LCM is 8. 8 divided by 2, we have 4 times 3, which is 12. 8 divided by 4, we have 2. 8 divided by 8, we have 1, all to the power of 4. So we have 2, when we add up this, we have 12 plus 2, 14 plus 3, we have 17 over 8, further raised to the power of 4. So this implies that we have 2 to the power of 17 over 2. So this will divide through with this. So we can split this fraction here to have 2 to the power of 16 plus 1 over 2, which is the same as 2 to the power of 16 over 2 plus 1 over 2. So we have 2 to the power of 16 over 2 is 8, and we have plus 1 over 2. So this implies that we have 2 to the power of 8 times 2 to the power of 1 over 2. So let's recall that the square root of a is equal to a to the power of 1 over 2. So we have our 2 to the power of 8 is 256, and our 2 to the power of 1 over 2 is root 2. So this is our answer, 256 root 2. Thank you for watching to the end of this video. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our solutions.